Well, hello and welcome, people of the internet. If you're anything like me, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has completely taken over your life. I honestly didn't expect this game to grip me like it is, but I find myself thinking I'm going to play a different game the next day, and then all of a sudden, nope, I have to get back in. I have questions that need answers, so I need to jump back in. I actually want to play right now, but anyway, that's besides the point. Today I want to talk about the team that I'm currently playing. So I'm a bit into Act 2. I'm probably like 5 or 6 hours into Act 2. I've just defeated the first Axum, just so you kind of have a bearing of where I am, because obviously I don't know how far Act 2 goes. But up until this point, I've had a little bit of like identity crisis on a lot of these characters, and I haven't really known what I wanted these characters to be until now. I put together a couple builds for the stream that we just did tonight, and I think that I've gotten these characters to a point that I am very happy with, and I'm looking to share that with you guys. So let's just jump right in and talk about the different builds. Of course, who are we playing? Well, we're playing the three lovely ladies here, Sciel, Lune, and Maelle. Let's go ahead and start with Maelle first, since I think she's probably the one that most people are familiar with. I would assume most people are playing Maelle. Look, she's a fan favorite, great voice actor, and overall a great character. So what do we want to do with her? Maelle is our hyper carry. She is our straightforward DPS. She's going to be critting a lot. She's going to be actually applying a lot of our burns, which is something that I initially had Lune doing. Initially, I had like a Lune burn setup where we start with Wildfire to just get burn on everything, which allows us to crit a lot more. But I think that that actually suits Maelle a little bit more, because we're basically applying burn on our free aims or just any crits with the Brelurum. And forgive me if I get these names wrong. There's a lot of French. I might be French, but I am not about to pronounce these. So critical hits apply burn. Now, if you take a look at our critical rate, we are at 75%. At this point, it's not really realistic to get up to 100%. It could possibly, I mean, it could probably be done if I respect, but let's be honest, it's not necessary. And the fact that one of our Pictos is going to give us some extra crit rate once enemies are burned, spoiler alert, it's 25%, which means that as long as we can get a burn, we have 100% crit rate. So that's kind of the idea here. We start off with a free attack. Usually it is a burn, if not one of the first two, sometimes three we can burn. And then pretty much across the board, we have 100% crit rate, which is going to be necessary once we get to Lune. So that's kind of what we're doing here. The base attack applying burn, never really necessary. And obviously, I don't have this up level 20. I haven't really found another weapon that I prefer over this Brelurum. I don't know if I have every weapon for Maelle up until this point. That being said, I do know that there's one weapon that is very good that you get through the Gestural Arena. I won't spoil it in case you don't know what it is. But unfortunately, it's missable, and I did miss it. So there's that, so there is technically a weapon better, but I can't get it till late game now. So that's what we're doing with her, setting up crits right at the beginning. As far as her skills go, the primary ones that I'm using here for like damage are going to be Swift Stride and Persei. I don't know, but basically we want to get into Virtuo Stance, do a bunch of damage, right? Fencer's Flurry I have here as default, just because more often than not I'm mobbing than I am bossing. When I do go up against a boss, if I think it's relevant, or if I honestly remember to, I would switch over to Offensive Switch, just in order to get some defenselessness. Obviously for bosses, this is going to be much more beneficial because, for one, it only costs 1 AP versus 4, but also because defenselessness, it goes on for 3 turns as opposed to 1 turn. So you're either applying defenselessness 1 across 3 enemies, or defenselessness 3 against 1 enemy. Obviously for bosses, Offensive Switch is better. Then we have Breaking Rules. Breaking Rules is so very helpful. This build does have a lot of AP generation across all 3 of our units, especially with Sciel, but being able to just remove everyone's shield, and the reason that's obviously necessary is for free aim attacks, but with Breaking Rules, we can just like get shields completely out of here, especially in, there's an area where these guys have the really long swords, you know, and they stab themselves, those enemies. There are some pairs there where if you free attack them, they apply 2 shields to everybody. So this is super helpful. And the guys that stab themselves apply shields as well. So if you're in that area, Breaking Rules is super nice for that. I don't believe I currently have a Pictos. I don't know if there is one in the game, but I'm hoping to find one that applies defenselessness on free aim attacks. So that way, if we go up against enemy with shields, because right now it's kind of one of those things where, like, what's the opener? Is it Fencer's Flurry or is it Breaking Rules? If there's an enemy with a bunch of shields, I start with Breaking Rules. Otherwise, I start with Fencer's Flurry. And honestly, with some of our Pictos, we just like annihilate enemies and can kill them in one hit. So it's one of those things where I want to apply defenselessness, so that way I get the extra turn with Breaking Rules. But I have to wait a whole nother turn for this. And then, like, if there's only one enemy, then I'm going to have to get the shields off anyway with my other characters. So yeah, so right now the synergy there isn't exactly what I want, and especially because it's only one turn, that would also be another reason why that doesn't work. Right. Flurry right now is my breaking ability. If we're in Virtuo Stance, we stay in Virtuo Stance, so a really nice way of keeping that active. Technically, we do have like Mezzoforte if we wanted that to get AP and keep us in the stance, but you know, again, it doesn't it doesn't do an attack to keep us in the stance. There have been a couple situations I'm thinking about potentially adding this somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. Maybe it replaces like Fencer's Flurry, but there've been a number of situations where I've had like 5 AP and haven't been able to get off a Flurry, or maybe the enemy is just about to break but isn't broken yet, and I want to stay in Virtuo Stance. So I could see that potentially being relevant there, but those times are far fewer than I think it's necessary to justify having this. So for right now, that's not up there. Other than that, like, so Egede, that's the skill that I was talking about earlier that can allow us to tank. Actually a good one if you apply a bunch of defense on your Maelle. I was actually having very good success with it, but again, just not super necessary. And then I'm not really going for a burn build, but I had to get these in order to get to something else. Doesn't matter. And then lastly, we have Sword Ballet, which is just our finisher. It does cost a lot of AP, but again, we can get there pretty significantly, and especially if you're good at parrying, you can get a lot of AP and get this off. But with critical hits dealing double damage, you know, it hits the cap, so ultimately it's 50k damage, basically, unless you want to get specific. It's like 49,995, right? But ultimately, it's basically 50k damage, as long as the enemy is burning. If they're not burning, then it's going to be a little bit less than that, but most of the time it's 50k damage. As far as stats go, you know, obviously I prioritized a bunch of into agility, a bunch into luck. I could potentially take some out of defense. I do like having some defense of my characters, especially the ones who are a little bit more brittle. Ideally, if I wanted more damage, I could take that off, but if I'm being honest with how this build has been going so far, I've been hitting damage cap a lot, and I don't really need more damage based on how much defense the enemies actually have right now. So I'm totally fine having my units be a little bit more defensive and not dying. Even if I'm not hitting damage cap all the time, the hits that I'm going for that are really strong are hitting damage cap. So that's that. As far as my Pictos go, right now my priority is just hitting a 75% crit rate. So what is actually on her right now is not necessarily like perfect or anything. And remember, I'm only in Act 2, so this isn't necessarily like your perfect endgame build or anything. Like, there's going to be Pictos I'm missing. There's going to be ones that maybe I haven't found yet. This is just kind of what I'm doing right now. So I have Dead Energy, really prioritizing speed and crit rate. Again, like, look at her speed. She's freaking fast. As far as Lunas go, I've invested pretty heavily into her. So my other 2 units are at 100 Lumina points. She's at 121, as you can see. And I'll go ahead and sort this by active so you can see what I have active. Is there anything that's really important here? Let's just go through these, see if there's anything that pops out at me that is pretty important. Auto Rush is super nice just to get a little bit of extra speed. Obviously, she's super fast already, but I've had a number of fights so far where I have 5 turns before the enemy even goes, with Lune being super fast. Sciel's not the fastest. She's about, I think, half speed of Maelle, but I can get easily 2 hits off with Maelle, maybe even 3. And with how we can sometimes play with Sciel, we can get a ton of turns off. But a lot of this stuff is just going to be what gives you the most offensive power. Crit break, you know, increase. We hit crits all the time, so increase crit damage. Burning shots, very important here. We definitely want burning shots to be able to help get our chance up at the beginning of the fight. It's not like super relevant, right? Because critical hits are going to apply burn. So maybe this could go, but in order to just kind of like give me that little bit of extra chance on that first free aim, I have it there. It's 3 points. So sue me. Breaking counter, critical burn, This is the one you want. 25% increased crit chance on burning enemies. We're at 75%. Do the math. 100% crit rate. Dead energy. She kills a lot of things. We want AP. It's nice. Same thing here. She's one of our primary breakers. Energizing start. So I only have the 2 on here. The other 2 are pretty expensive. They're 15 points and 20 points, and I just don't have the room for them right now. This is more than enough. You definitely don't need it. This will allow you to get, what is it, 1 attack off? Because I think you start... Oh boy, you start either 5 or 6. So it's either 1 or 2 free strikes, and then you can get off either your... What do they call it? Fencer's Flurry or breaking rolls, right? You can get off a couple attacks. If you're going for breaking rolls, you can get off 1. I think it's 1 if you go Fencer's Flurry. I'm going to keep saying Fencer's Flurry. Deal with it. First offense for more damage, especially with the Fencer's Flurry. Just really strong AoE. First strike, so we go first. Immaculate, 30% increased damage until a hit is received. Obviously, well, this is the one I have automatically on, so it's mostly there for stats. But you know, if you're good at doing dodges, parrying, or she just doesn't get attacked, boom, 30% extra damage, easy peasy. Marking shots, again, we're doing a fair amount of free attacks with her. Not as much as like a Verso, not even close. But being able to apply mark, really nice. Inverted affinity, a lot of our, especially when we're mobbing, a lot of the battles do not go past 3 turns, so an extra 50% damage is really nice. Just be careful, you don't heal with this. In Media Res, this one is very powerful, very powerful. Kind of it's a little bit interesting to get. So in case you haven't seen this one yet, you have to go way back to the beginning of the game. There's a cave off to like the right side. It's the beach that you started the game on where like everyone got obliterated. There's a lot of enemies there. Don't fight them. You will not be able to kill them at this point of the game, but you can easily run past them and just, there's a bunch of like chroma on the ground and a bunch of stuff you can pick up. This is one of those things that I found. Obviously very strong, but your max health is halved. So keep that in mind with the fact that we're running inverted affinity, that you're going to start with half health, but you're going to be able to soak up 3 hits. So not that big of a deal. And you kill things pretty fast. So, you know, it's a nice one to have. Although we could potentially remove this for some extra power, but starting at half health, I like having the 3 shields. Powerful shots, a chance to gain powerful. Not bad when we're starting with free aims. Rewarding mark. We could potentially apply mark with our free attack, so obviously we apply some mark here. And then if they get through all our shields, we get some SOS power, we get SOS shield, and the fact that we're starting at 50% health, once they break those, as long as we survive the hit, it'll automatically trigger those on that first hit. Solidifying, same thing. So basically, as soon as it breaks, we're at 50% health. Once we get hit, below that, as long as we survive, we get 2 shields, power, and shell. Sweet kill, so we recover a little bit of health on killing an enemy. And tainted, honestly, this was kind of a filler, but because we have the shell and power, gives us a little bit more damage there. And if we ever get some kind of debuff on us, it just helps us deal a little bit more damage. But ultimately, like I said, there's nothing here really. I guess the only thing that's kind of pretty important is the energizing starts, so that way you can do a free aim, try and get a burn, and then go for your attack. Other than that, it's just kind of a lot of offensive stuff. There's nothing like oh, well, I guess critical burn. Okay, so I guess between the, energizing start and critical burn, those are like the ones that you really want on in order to get running. The rest of them are just like whatever you have that's offensive, throw them on and you'll be more than fine. Yeah, that's pretty much all for her. Let's head over to Lune here. Lune, so I've gone through a number of different iterations with her of how I wanted to build her, and ultimately, elemental trick. So this is one that's been, from what I've been seeing, has been getting a lot of love recently, and for good reason. It's really good when you pair it up with Elemental Genesis. So Elemental Trick deals low single target ice, fire, lightning, and earth damage. Whenever you critical hit, you get a corresponding stain. So obviously here I'm just below. I'm at 74% chance. So if she's hitting a burning enemy, God forbid, you get 99% crit chance. If you don't get a crit, you don't get a stain. It's not the end of the world. But basically, if you do have that 100% crit chance, you generate ice, fire, lightning, earth. And take a look at here, Elemental Genesis can only be cast if you have ice, lightning, fire, and earth. Pretty convenient there. And it only costs 4. When I saw it cost 4, I was like, oh my god. Because before I had Elemental Genesis, I was actually using Lightning Dance, which is very powerful. It does cost 7 AP though. Does 6 hits. Critical hits trigger additional hit. and it consumes everything but lightning in order to do more damage. So I did like that. It was very strong. Hit cap pretty much every time. And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I have to run both. Maybe I have to run Lightning Dance for bosses or just like strong single target enemies and save Elemental Genesis for when it's more an AoE. Not the case. This is extremely powerful, does very close to the same amount of damage, especially if you're hitting cap very often. Just stick with Elemental Genesis. It's cheaper. It is a little bit more restrictive to cast because you can only cast it with these elements. What I was doing for a while is I actually had Mayhem on my bar. So basically, if there was ever a time where like I wanted a heavy hitting spell, but the elements, the stains that I had did not line up with what I need for Genesis, I could pop a Mayhem. So that's completely relevant. I ended up switching over to Rock Slide here, mostly because all of the abilities we have, except for Thermal Transfer here, can generate one of the stain that we need and a light stain. So we have, you know, fire. You guys can do the math here. Wildfire is really nice just for applying AoE burn, so it's a nice spell to have regardless. Thermal Transfer, super nice. We're applying burn a lot with Maelle, and then obviously with Wildfire if we need to. And everyone has burn on free aim, so Thermal Transfer is really nice just to get a bit more AP. And obviously if you get a little bit of, I guess, inopportune luck with your free attacks, which you can get, we'll take a look at the weapon here in a second. You can potentially play a second turn, which is really nice. Rock Slide here is now my break spell. This will eventually be the what's it called, this one, Terraquake. That's where I'm working towards, because right now, you know, Rock Slide only being single target, it's fine, but I just want another AoE option. And then there's Thunderfall here. Honestly, I almost never use this. If I was going to, it would just be to generate the correct stains, but realistically, these two I almost never cast. It's primarily these four that I'm using. Other than that, I did use Ice Lance for a little bit because Ice Lance does give you the Ice Stain plus the light one, which Thermal Transfer does not. I was also using it on some enemies that were a bit faster than me at the time. It was fine. It was obviously a little bit more AP intensive, but if you need the debuff, it's fine. I would say the Thermal Transfer is still better, but in certain situations, this can be just fine. I was also using Earth Rising here before I had access to Rock Slide. Works perfectly fine. Unfortunately, doesn't give you that light stain, but if you need some earth, you know, if you're going against enemies that are immune to fire, which is a whole different thing, this build is going to run into trouble. There is an area in Act 2 that it was a danger zone, right? It gave you that danger warning, but there are a lot of enemies that are immune to ice and fire, and so this build might struggle a bit. Especially if you start running into enemies that are immune to a certain element. Elemental Trick starts not being as consistent as it is against enemies who are not. Against enemies that are not, this combo just goes wild and just kills everything. The weapon here, very good. First of all, scales with vitality and luck, which is just nice. So you can keep your units nice and healthy. But they start with generate a random stain on a free aim shot. Now, of course, this is going to be super relevant to us. It can definitely help. I've had a number of situations where, you know, I've used Elemental Trick and I've had an enemy who's immune to one of the types, and I fired off a free attack and got lucky and got the stain that I needed. You can definitely do it for that. But it's also just helpful if you're trying to apply status effects with your free aim. You can just get free stains, and, you know, if you're going the more Mayhem build, this can be nice to just like fill that up and then fire off a Mayhem. So if you don't have access to Genesis yet, because it is a bit expensive. I don't remember the exact level I got it. I think it was like mid-30s that I was first able to get it. The generating random stain was really nice when I was using Mayhem. Plus 1 AP when stains are consumed, however. That is really nice. So the fact that we're pretty consistently going Trick into Genesis, consuming 4, and we get 4 AP back, basically means we're getting Genesis for free. Doesn't basically mean that, it literally means that. So that's just very powerful to keep our AP up, so that way we can keep the cycle going and just keep on chugging through AP and just keep her casting spells. Lune is our nuker. I don't remember if I said that earlier, but she is our nuker. She is just our big, get in there, get in fast. She's not trying to do anything too tricksy, just big damage. And oh yeah, and her attributes here. Obviously they've been on screen, but just to kind of touch on them. Our luck I have up. We scale a bit with luck, so it's nice there. At some point, I'm going to be able to take some of the luck out when I have higher crit rate. Pictos, but for right now, this gets me up to 74, and I'm fine with it. I don't want to spend, honestly, I've spent so many resources respecking and trying new stuff. But so right now, basically, I'm focusing on agility, just get her as fast as possible. You could argue more vitality, but honestly, they're fine living as they are. And like I said, she's already hitting cap. Damage cap, so eking out more damage is not necessarily something that I need here. Oh, right, we gotta go over Lumina's. How could I almost forget her Lumina's? She's gonna be a lot, very similar to Maelle. Obviously, though, she doesn't have quite as many Lumina points. So I do have some stuff on here like augmented aim. I honestly don't use it as much on her, but if you want to generate some stains, you know, the stuff where, you know, you're applying burn is going to be nice. And obviously we do have the critical burn here. Breaker, just to make sure that we can deal some more break damage. We do have burning shots, of course. Critical break, confident fighter. These are coming from the Pictos, and tainted. These are coming from the Pictos that we have equipped. Energizing start, very helpful just to get some additional AP. It's not necessary because you know, elemental trick only costs 3 to start, but it's certainly nice to have that AP on future turns, so that way it just kind of snowballs you keep going. If we take big damage, honestly, why is this even on here? That should not be on there. So I got 5 points to spend. I was looking at that was probably from earlier on. I just forgot to swap it out. Dead energy, if we're killing things, we get AP. Glass cannon, super nice, just more damage, especially on our lighter hits. This just helps us hit harder. First strike, so that way we go first. I put healing tint energy. Honestly, I put this on here because I had a point to spare, and it's AP if I end up using healing tints. Honestly, I end up using healing tints on her a lot. Like if there is a unit that's going to be using any like healing or reviving tints, it's usually Lune. A lot of that is just because of how her stains line up. If they're not lining up perfectly, or if there's an enemy that is resistant to an element type, she's usually the one that's having a little bit of trouble, so she's usually my item user. We have in media res, inverted affinity, so we saw these before with Maelle. Rewarding mark, so obviously we have the ability to apply mark with Maelle on our free games, so this can help us out with a little bit of AP generation. Powerful shots, same thing, marking shots as we saw before. Solidifying, extra shields, and then of course tainted, like I said. And I got 5 points to spend somewhere. I'm sure there'll be something, you know, it's not super relevant what it is. Honestly, it could be like, actually, roulette isn't even necessary. If anything, that could reduce the cost. I played with roulette a while in Act 1. It was fun, but I don't really need it. Honestly, it could probably just be SOS Shell. Sure, we'll pop that on. Just keep us alive a little bit longer. And lastly, my girl Sciel. Man, I love playing Sciel. This build is so much fun. I've gone through numerous variations of her. I've tried just a full-on damage build. I've tried a like tanky healing build. I've tried a buff build that uses all set. I've done one that uses rush, and I could never really figure out how I wanted to fit her in, and which is too bad because I think she's probably my favorite character, and she just had a really nice moment in the story, to be honest. So what are we doing here? The whole synergy of this kit revolves around two things: Card Weaver and Chadian. So Chadian, we only care about the first part of this. Sun skills always apply 10 foretell, but all damage taken is doubled. That might seem a little bit scary at first, but if you take a look at our health, take a look at our defense, we are built for defense. So we're specifically building around this ability. We also have a bunch of vitality investment, so she hits like a truck. We have no luck investment. Honestly, it's not needed. I was very surprised at how often she was hitting damage cap, even on abilities that are not strong abilities. So what do we have here? So Card Weaver, this is what we're playing around. 3 AP, it's a sun ability, deals low single target physical damage, 1 hit, propagates target's foretell to all enemies, which is so good. So basically the way this works is, because it's a sun ability, even though it's not applying foretell, it's a sun ability, so the weapon is going to apply 10 foretell. Just for free, just for it being a sun ability, which is already super powerful. But then it propagates the foretell to all enemies. So initially what I was doing is I was playing around with Lune doing wildfire, applying burn, and then we would use searing bond to apply 5 foretell to everybody. Why do that when you can do this and apply 10 foretell to everybody, and you get to play a second turn immediately? That's insane. So we can basically always take advantage of the 10 foretell on all our enemies, because we'll obviously get to this, but if you take a look at our Lunas, we have energizing start 1, 2, and 3. Now with all 3 of these, you use your 3 AP, you take a second turn, and then you should have, I believe you end up with 5. It's either 5 or 6 AP. And if you take a look, everything is castable, which is pretty sweet. So what can we do on that second turn after we have all of our foretell applied? Firing Shadow. Honestly, it's here just because I need kind of a filler AoE spell. All the other spells, or all the other skills that we have, are single target, which initially I didn't really plan for, but it's just kind of how it worked out. Initially here, I believe I had not Searing Bond. Was it Twilight Slash? No. What was it? What did I have here? Doesn't really matter, but I'm looking around. I think it was Sealed Fate, but it's not needed. Sure, this allows you to do a bunch of extra damage. Not needed at all. Firing Shadow is just really nice if you just need a little bit AoE to just kind of like finish off a couple enemies. Intervention, super nice. Again, we can use this immediately. Allows us to pass off some AP to another party member, give them a turn immediately. Very nice. We have very high damaging other units. Plus, if they need to like break or something, we can pass them off AP to make sure that they can cast their stronger skills. Just a very strong skill, and turn manipulation, always super powerful in games like this. Grim Harvest I have here, so that way we can heal up all our allies. And of course, if we apply 10 foretell, we'll heal all. It's good once you get past, once that buff comes off you, or I guess it's technically a debuff. Once that debuff comes off you, then this is really nice, and you can use it later on in the fights. Not relevant for mob fights for the most part, unless you're having trouble in the fights, but honestly, these builds do so much damage, you really shouldn't. But Grim Harvest is real nice to just kind of heal everyone up. Plentiful Harvest here. So if we don't necessarily want to use Intervention to pass off AP or get an extra turn, we can just use Plentiful Harvest to do a little bit of damage as well, but also pass AP off. She also gives some AP to herself, so it's a nice way to kind of neutralize how much she's actually using. And then lastly, Phantom Blade. This is like our big final hit. Eventually, I believe this is going to become... Dark Wave, deals high damage to all enemies 3 hits. It's a little bit more expensive, only 1. It doesn't break, which is kind of a downside, so we'll see how relevant that is. It does a lot more damage, so I'm assuming that I will like that better. And that's kind of all your skills. I have really liked this. So basically what you can do is on turn 2, you are in Twilight. So you go Card Weaver, there's your Sun, and then you use one of your Moon abilities, which if you're taking a look here, they're all Moon abilities. So after you use the second ability, on her next turn, you'll be in Twilight. And when you start your next turn, you will have 9 AP, which is super fun, assuming you're not like exhausted or something like that. So then you can Card Weaver, which will then give you 20 foretell. You get a second turn. That is your second turn of Twilight. So don't mess up like I did, where I thought that was still my first turn. It says play a second turn, so you go to your second turn, and then you can do like big damage with a Phantom Blade, or you can just pass off a ton of AP with Plentiful Harvest. If you're really weak, you can heal everyone. It's just a really sweet combo, gets you into Twilight really quickly. It can just play a lot around with just max foretell all the time. Super, super fun to play. As far as Lumina's here, let's go with Pictos here. So she's starting here with the in media res, ton of defense and a little bit of crit rate, but honestly just for that defense. Healing parry, she heals a little bit, but it's mostly here for the health and defense. And then healing share, you know, it's there for the health. It has some crit rate on it. Honestly, if I need to heal, sure, it's cool that she also heals herself a little bit more than her allies, but honestly, the healing portion hasn't been super relevant for me yet. We'll see once I get into Act 3. And then in Luna's, this is going to be a little bit different just because she's a little bit more defensive, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. I do have Auto Rush on her since, as you can see, she's not quite as fast as my other units. This will just kind of allow her to pick up the pace, and it doesn't really matter where she goes in turn order, right? I like having Maelle going faster than Lune, so that way she can apply burn before her, but honestly, the way Sciel plays, she can kind of go wherever, and as long as she gets more turns, she's giving more AP around, she's doing big damage, she's going to Twilight, it's all good, so we want to apply Rush for her. She is hurting on crit rate, so we do have like the critical moments stuff. Of course, we have critical burn, so stuff to help out her crit. Breaking counter here, dead energy if she gets a kill. I mean, she can get a kill, don't get me wrong, she does damage, but our primary damage dealers are Lune and Maelle. Of course, we do need the energizing start, so you do have to get you do have to get 3 in order to get this combo going in 1 turn. We have Healing Parry just to heal. Of course, these are the ones for the Pictos. Inverted Affinity. Everyone has Inverted Affinity. This is just kind of filler. SOS Shell and Power. We've seen that before. If they can get her below 50% HP. But it doesn't happen all the time. Rewarding Mark for more AP. Solidifying, same thing. This kind of, if you drop below 50% HP, kind of sweet here. Staggering Attack, honestly, I don't think it's ever relevant, but I had an extra point, so I threw it on here. And Sweet Kill, should she need some kind of recovery. With her big health pool, she's going to be recovering a lot of HP, but is it relevant? There might be something else. You know, if I had a couple of extra points, I might take like Auto Shell. Maybe, although because we have those shields at the start, maybe that 10 points could be put somewhere else. Maybe like Augmented Counter might be a better option, actually. But, you know, whatever you seem to be, whatever sees to fit, you know, there's not like anything here that's incredibly important, right? This isn't like an end game build where you're trying to pump out as much damage as possible, and every like vital Pictos is super important to getting those numbers. This is just kind of what I'm using, what I have access to, so kind of use this as a general guide to kind of put together your own Pictos, kind of lined up. For the ones that were important, like I said, Maelle, she has a couple that's pretty important to setting up burn, but other than that, whatever works for you, whatever you got access to, put it to good use. This team, super, super fun. I'm so happy to have finally locked down, or at least at this moment, locked down how I want to best utilize all these units. I played for about 4 hours tonight on stream, and this is the first time that I actually locked in with the team and tried it, and I had so much fun. I got a couple big boss fights in and did a lot of mobbing. And it was just, it lined up in a way that the units have not lined up for me yet. So if you've been lost like me, hey, give this one a shot, see how it works. Just for heads up, I played with Verso in my last stream, and he just seemed like a free aim attacker. And like I'd do a basic attack, he'd attack again. And it was fine. I'm sure, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff. He's like godlike in the end game. But like I said, these units have no trouble hitting damage cap, and if they're already hitting damage cap, I don't need to hit more damage cap. And then Minoko, I don't really use because I did a lot of side content before I got him, and unfortunately you're kind of forced to use him because of how he works. If you haven't gotten to him yet, I'm just not going to spoil that for you, but you do have to have him in your party for him to work optimally, which is exactly how it was told to me by a viewer, and I was like, that duh, like you need to use him in order for him to be useful. But you'll see once you get to him, his mechanic, he like has to be on your team for a significant period of time for him to actually be useful. But there you go. That's my mid-game, like maybe beginning third act 2 team build. What do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, give me your thoughts and opinions. Are there anything that you think that I could switch up to maybe improve or change? Or just let me know, who are you using for your main squad and how are you playing them? How do you have your team set up? Let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, guys, if you did enjoy the content, would you kindly smash that like button and subscribe to the channel? That way you never miss a video, or of course a live stream here on YouTube. But guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.